Tonight's guest, airborne infantry veteran. He deployed to both sandboxes. He got injured in combat, spent a couple years at Walter Reed, and I guess that's probably a good place to hone your comedic talents. Michael, and we talked, and I wasn't that far off about how to pronounce his name, but we're just going to call him CQ.
Yep, that works for me.
It's a lot easier to say than Carrasquillo. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
You've got some friends who are anxiously awaiting your appearance on the show here in the Facebook live chat. So you are you? I guess would you be considered a graduate of the Armed Services Arts Partnership Program?
Yeah. So ASAP it has multiple programs. There's music programs, writing programs. I am a alum of the comedy boot camp, the stand-up comedy class.
Is that what it's called? The comedy boot camp?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Comedy boot camp.
And so are the people that are involved with this, I guess, I don't know, the mentorship or instruction of the comedy boot camp, are these all veterans of stand-up comedy, people that we may have heard of? I
will say there's been a few iterations so far. In mine, in my class, we did have the majority of the mentorship was people that have gone through the program before and have stuck with comedy. So they've performed, they've been to different places. And then we also had a stand-up comic who had, 20 plus years of experience. There's no, let's say, celebrities kind of involved in the boot camp classes, but there is a lot of experience out there that the mentors get to bring in.
How much of stand-up comedy, because we touched on this when PJ was on the show, how much of this is natural ability and how much of this is you actually learning a craft and honing that?
Oh my God. I'm sure all my friends would say that I'm not funny at all naturally. So I think it's a lot of work. I've seen people who are just, the most hilarious people you'll meet face to face, but you put them in a situation where they have to get up on a stage in front of a light, in front of an audience. And they're just going to crack to pieces. So there is a lot of work that goes into, making a good set and getting practice, getting comfortable on stage. But I like to think that there's a little bit of just that, that's something extra special that makes you different from everybody else.
Right. How intimidating is it to get up on stage by yourself with just the microphone and the spotlights on you, and people are looking at you expectantly like, okay, funny man, make me laugh?
It is. It's a lot of pressure. When I was going through the classes, in my head, I was like, what am I doing? This is kind of crazy, I really, the way I feel about it now is it reminds me a lot of like being airborne. So, you do a lot of the prep work, a lot of prep work. Anybody that's done any type of airborne operation knows you end up sitting on the tarmac forever, just waiting to go. And then, just right before you hit that stage, it's that that green light comes on and you're just, next thing you know, you're out the door, and it's pure adrenaline after that. So, it's definitely the closest thing I can say, to being back in the airborne straps and, going out there and performing.
That's an interesting parallel that you drew between that and being airborne. And that's what you did in the Army, like we've been saying, is that you were in the airborne infantry. Do you mind talking about your deployments and how you came to be injured and spending 2 years at Walter Reed?
Yeah, I'll try to keep this as short as possible, but it's a very long story, but I'll hit the highlights. I joined the Army straight out of high school. I'm originally from New York City. So I was a senior in high school when 9/11 happened. So at that point, there was no decision of what I was going to do next. I immediately went after my graduation and signed up, joined the Army. I wanted to be on the front lines. I wanted to be making a difference. So I joined the airborne infantry, went through basic and airborne school, ended up with the 173rd in Vicenza, Italy.
Guys,
Yes, like that's right, Sky Soldiers. And so I got there in 2003, and anybody that knows airborne history, 2003 is when the 173rd jumped into Iraq, first combat operation since Vietnam. So so we hit the ground running. Did some time in Iraq, just was 13, 14 months, and then redeployed back to Italy, and then a year later was sent to Afghanistan. I made it 6 months out of a year-long deployment before I was wounded in combat. It was during an air assault mission. We were, exiting helicopters. My team got ambushed right out the gate, and yeah, I got shot 5 times.
Holy shit.
And yeah, I survived. Obviously, I died actually once in transit when they were trying to get me airlift me out, and they brought me back, thankfully. And yeah, surgery right there in Afghanistan, a little mud hut. They performed emergency surgeries. From there, Bagram, the main base, and then from there, the Germany hospital Landstuhl, the German hospital that we have there. There a couple days, and then pushed right to Walter Reed, where I spent the next 2 years undergoing 44 something surgeries.
Oh my God.
Wow.
And yeah, and spent 2 years there, and was finally cleared and medically retired in 2007.
Well,
This is
congratulations on not staying dead. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
yeah. I wanted to ask about your 2 years at Walter Reed. Like, when you got there, did you know you were going to be spending that much time there?
The funny thing about that is I was so conditioned to, walk it off, I think as most infantry guys are, that even with 5 bullet holes, pieces missing, in ICU I think I was in ICU for like 3 months, where I died again in ICU. I was still convinced for a good, I'm ashamed for how long I was convinced that I would be a return to duty, that I would get back out there and meet my guys back out in the field.
Man.
And it took a long while to kind of come to grips with the fact that my military career was over.
You're stubborn son of a bitch, aren't you? You died twice and you just refused to stay dead. Good on you, man.
I tell people that the next time I plan on making it stick, though. So.
So is that where you did you start getting into comedy while you were at Walter Reed?
Yeah, I've always been a fan of comedy. Like I mean, it's always been my favorite genre. I love stand-up material. I never saw myself ever at that kind of a level where I was going to be doing something like that. I will say that comedy played a part in my recovery. So when I was in Walter Reed, I think I went through what a lot of people go through. You do go through survivor's guilt. You do go through the why me, all these kind of dark, really negative thoughts. And while I was kind of at my lowest, I remember I was sitting in a bed, and there was this guy who would come around to the different wards. He was a triple amputee, had lost both his legs and one of his arms. And then the one arm that was left had like 1 or 2 fingers. And he had a little motorized wheelchair that, I mean, I can't even describe it. It was pimped out, right? It had spinners for rims, stickers, had a boombox on the back, flags. Like, this dude was decked out. And he would go into all the wards and would just be he was the funniest guy I think I've ever met. It got so bad that he would come in my room and I would start laughing so hard that I would literally bust stitches, and they would ask him to leave for my medical safety. And I remember thinking to myself, like, man, if here I am, with everything wrong with me, sure, but like, it could be worse. Like, this guy has gone through way worse than what I went through, and yet he's still has this amazing sense of humor, still can just light up a room. And I'm like, I have no right to pity myself. I have no right to sit here and be moody and gloomy. Like, there's so much life still left to live, and that kind of got me on the road to recovery. And I mean, it was years went by. You know, like I said, I left in '07, and it was just last year that I started doing comedy. So it was a long path to get me back to where I am. But I do look at that as what kind of started my recovery.
So were you involved? I know you're involved with some nonprofit organizations that give back to wounded veterans. Is that something that you were involved in prior to you going through this program with the Armed Services Arts Partnership?
Right. So when I got injured, I I decided I wanted to get away from everybody. And so I bought a house in Pennsylvania in the woodlands, like deep in the mountains where no one could bother me. And I spent a year or two, figuring things out. And it wasn't until I got reached out to by like Wounded Warrior Project had originally reached out to me and like, oh, you need to come out to some events and meet some guys. And so little by little, I started getting more involved. Obviously, I wasn't working or anything like that. And so it was good that it got me out of the house. It got me involved, being with other veterans. And little by little, it kind of helped me get out of my shell, get me out of my funk. And then through their organization, then started getting connected with a lot of different organizations, Team Red, White, and Blue, Team Rubicon. I mean, it goes on and on. Like I wanted to, every time I went to an event and I got to talk to guys and I got to share my story and hear their story, it made, I don't know, it just helped me. It was therapeutic to kind of be open and to kind of let, shine some light on the demons that we have inside of us. And it really got me through a lot of my hard times. And so more and more I got involved. Like I just started gobbling it up. Like any type of, program that was for veterans. Like I just wanted to be a part of it because it helped me to talk to other guys, to help them, help me, and just back and forth. So it's been a passion since being injured. It took a warrior who's my mentor, a guy who came to me in my darkest time and kind of showed me my path and showed me like, look, you can get to this good place if you just, if you work at it. And he taught me like to give. The more you could give back, the better you're going to feel. And that kind of got me on the path that I'm on. And, I've been a peer supporter. I've been a peer mentor. I've gotten certified in, suicide awareness training. And as much as I could do, I help run a support group for disabled veterans. I try to do as much as I can to mentor and be there for others, because I know I wouldn't be here today if those same people, if those mentors weren't a part of my life.
I got a couple of other questions. First of which is, who are these dudes in here talking shit in the Facebook live chat and saying that your wife is way funnier than you are?
Well, first of all, that is absolutely true. My wife is hysterically funny. And the only reason I don't do wife jokes is because I know she'd kill me. But she's hilarious. And those are some of the guys that I've mentored in the past that decided this was a great opportunity to try to roast me live on air.
Friends. You say friends with quotation marks around it?
Yes, I do. I use air quotes quite often. So I'm using my air quotes now.
Secondly, was there ever a time where you felt resentful? I mean, you sound like a hard charger, so your military career was in essence like cut way short by this. Did you ever feel resentful? I know you said that you kind of retreated to the woods for a while to do some, I don't want to sound cliche, but soul searching, let's say, for lack of a better term.
No, true. Very true. That was something I had to deal with a lot. I loved doing what I did. I mean, I literally bled, sweat, and everything for the Army, for my brothers in arms. I believed in what we were doing. And it's a very hard thing. Like I can imagine that people who, 6 years in, 8 years in, decide to hang it up and walk away. That's got to be a hard thing. But to have it ripped away from you leaves just a nasty, ugly hole in your being. And it took a long time for me to come to terms with that. and to be able to fill that, and that's where a lot of that camaraderie with my fellow veterans and serving for something else than yourself, that's what ended up filling that hole for me. But yeah, it was ugly for a while, and it was a hard thing to say that, okay, I can't be that person that I used to be.
Well, it's good that you've been able to keep the military community, veteran community, close to you. That's I think that's what drives a lot of us. I did 4 years and got out of my own free will. I got out in 1998. I guess if I had to give a reasons, because I was bored. But looking back, I'm like, why didn't I stay in? I miss it. I miss the people. Embrace the suck. That sort of thing. So this is therapeutic for me, just like what you do is therapeutic for you. And I've found that that's a common theme among veterans, but more so in a case where somebody who had I guess a bright future ahead of them in the military that had it taken away from them. So at least, I mean, you could have gone the other way. You could have withdrawn and turned all this shit inward on yourself. Luckily for us, you didn't. So maybe we can catch you in a comedy club somewhere.
Yeah, I'm still very new to this, and I've done a couple shows. When I signed up for the class to learn, I didn't even know if it would be something that I'd follow through with afterwards. But since graduating, I mean, I've enjoyed it immensely. It's been such and a big part of that was going through with other veterans and just making each other laugh. It reminded me of being in the trenches, and literally all you had was, we're either gonna just be miserable or we're gonna make each other laugh. And so humor was a big part of that. So getting to go through the program with other veterans was 80% the joy of it. 20% of it is just getting on stage and making people laugh is a fun thing to do. I've done a couple little shows, and most of the stuff that I've done has been charity work. It's giving back. ASAP asked me to go do this performance or that performance. Great. I'd love to. Like, I didn't do this because I thought I was going to make a career out of it. But to be able to do bigger shows has been awesome. And I know I'm going to be one of 3 opening for PJ in Connecticut here next week. And so hopefully, bigger things come and I'm able to do those things. And I'm excited for the opportunities.
We're excited for you.
The class you went through, what is it? Comedy boot camp?
Yes.
And how was that? Was it like a army comedian class, or like how was the class you gave?
So the way there's 2 of them. There's one in Washington D.C. and there's one in Hampton Roads, Virginia. The one I went to was the D.C. class. It happens at the D.C. Improv, which is, if you know, comedy is a legendary place where just the gods of comedy have performed in their time. And so we got to be there, and we had our mentors, people who had previously graduated. We had the teachers, so to speak, and there's a very structured course of where they work you through the idea of, okay, a premise, a setup, a punchline, a tag, and how to create a flow, and it's 6 weeks of just, you write material, you go, you perform it for the class. And they give you feedback, and you just try to make it better and better and better and tighter and tighter, and then at the end of the 6 weeks, we put on a graduation show and perform right on stage at the DC Improv for a real audience who have paid real money to come and see this show.
Holy shit!
So it's
no pressure.
It's amazing.
Now, do people flunk out of the class? Is it possible that you're just like, you're not funny, you can't be a comedian?
Oh man, I can't talk bad about my brethren, man. Come on now. No, it's that kind of the thought of, like, leave no man behind. So if someone is struggling, then just more of us are gonna band around that person. And a lot of times, if you've signed up for this class, you are pretty much inherently funny. A lot of it could just be nerves on stage. It could be, we had issues with guys, missing their timing. You're supposed to do a tight 5 minutes, and you get up there, you get a little disoriented. Next thing you know, you're doing 8, 9, 10, 11 minutes. So it's working out a lot of the kinks of performing. But I wouldn't say anybody's like so bad that they're like they just flunked. I think some people have gone through it and realized, you know what, maybe this isn't what I thought it would be. Maybe this isn't something I'm comfortable with, and they decide not to go back. But I don't know of anybody who's ever been like, they're okay, you got an F, get the fuck out,
nah.
come back.
I imagine not, but it's got to be pretty fun to do it with a bunch of veterans.
Oh my God! I mean, a lot of times we'd get chastised because we're too busy just making each other laugh than actually working on our material. So a lot of it was like, guys, come on, like that was funny, but let's focus on making your shit better.
Can you imagine being like the cat herder in charge of all the up and coming veteran comedians?
Man,
worst job
I
ever.
cannot say enough about the leadership we've had. Sam Pressler, who's the executive director of the whole program, who attends all the classes himself. He just loves being a part of it. The instructors we've had, KJ and James. I mean, phenomenal. I don't know how they do it. I'm actually mentoring this current class that's going through right now. I'm one of the mentors. So you have the instructors who lead the class, and then alumni mentors who have gone through it, who've been out there, who've performed, and can just kind of give insight and feedback and just little guidance here and there. So I'm currently mentoring this class, one of the mentors of this class, and it's awesome. It's like going through the whole program again. I'm loving every minute of it.
So you may pick up a little bit more the second time around.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Never stop learning.
I have my book, my little comedy notebook, everywhere I go, and it's absolutely open, and I'm scribbling furiously in the back. Listening to all these funny people really does inspire you to keep working at it.
Are you officially a stand-up? I mean, at what point do you say, "Hey, I'm a stand-up comedian"?
That's a good question, man. It's when it's in your heart. No,
good answer.
I guess what makes you a professional? I guess if you get paid to do it, I guess that makes you a professional, right?
Sure.
All right. Well, I've been paid to do comedy, so I guess.
Here all this time I thought I was a professional broadcaster, and it turns out I'm not. So Michael has graciously agreed to join us on the show tonight, and if you missed the first half of the show, you missed a treat. He told us about his experiences leading up to his enrollment, I guess, in the comedy boot camp thing, and now he spends his days being funny and doing things to help other veterans, which is I kind of think is all of a mission that all of us should be involved in, because like I've said before, we got to look out for each other because each other is all we've got. But despite everything that he's been through, being wounded and dying twice, which is kind of creepy, he has remained a functioning member of society. So he is a functional veteran. Good on you, dude. And we learned a lot of interesting things about your wife during the break, and how your friends are terrified of her. all 5 feet of her.
Oh yeah.
She's keeping you in line over there, I guess.
Oh yeah, she's in the other room glaring at me, so I got to watch what I say.
Sorry. I'm probably partially responsible for that. Do you have a way for us to keep up with everything that's going on in your world? I mean, within reason. We don't want to be creepy or anything. Facebook page, maybe?
Well, yeah. I mean, I can give you my address. You guys can come over.
Oh, sweet.
Get back.
Hey, Spanky, you writing this down?
Kegger at Michael's house.
That's right. It's always a party at CQ's house. I have my own personal page, but for the comedy stuff, I have it's called CQ Comedy, is the Facebook page, and then I do a little bit of the Twitter stuff, not much, but which is, I think my Twitter handle is like ZeroCar, ZeroCarr. And that's really it. I mean, I'm still learning how to plug myself, basically.
So you're not on.
Sounds a lot dirtier than it is.
Instagram, Snapchat. What's all the other ones, Zulu? You're up on all this crap.
I mean, what's your Tumblr, your Pinterest, your Reddit username?
Oh yeah.
Your Pornhub account.
Who knows all that stuff? Oh, Pornhub account.
None of that. I keep it simple. I try to keep it stupid simple, right?
So you said that you have made some money as a comedian, and now you're a professional. And you had mentioned that you're going to be opening for PJ in where?
Connecticut.
Connecticut.
Hartford, Connecticut. Yeah, at the Hartford Funny Bone.
Yeah, he talked about that when he was on the show recently, and said that he was going to have some guys who'd been through the comedy boot camp thing opening for him. But what a dick! He didn't use your name specifically.
Well, I think PJ has been incredibly helpful and just encouraging to all. He's doing his whole Northeast tour. I think it's Hartford, Connecticut, Syracuse, New York, and Virginia Beach. And he opened that up to any ASAP alum that wanted to open it up for him. So I mean, he's that's like 9 to 12 different comedians, and I'm sure at that time we hadn't exactly figured out who was going where and who was going to do what. So I wouldn't put it on him for not name dropping me personally, but yeah, he's been incredibly just generous with his shows and giving us a chance to kind of get up and do that thing.
That's a very gracious and diplomatic answer.
I try.
I just called him a dick, and you totally fended that off and turned it back around on me.
Yeah, well, he's giving me an opportunity. I'm not gonna slander him.
He's a good guy. It was a lot of fun. PJ was a lot of fun to have on the show. And good at what he does.
Yeah, he's fantastic, and I aspire to be one day as funny and as good at the craft as he is.
But he's been in Bill Clinton's mouth, and that's quite an achievement in and of itself.
Yes, I know exactly what you mean, but I think it's funnier if we just leave it at that.
Right. Does he talk to people? Does he talk to you guys about that kind of shit? Because he couldn't stop telling us about how much time he'd spent in former President Bill Clinton's mouth when he was on the show. It's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, we've done a few things. I think one of the coolest things, and just to again pat him on the back, is the fact that he not only is he giving us the stage to perform at, I know especially the few of us that are going up to Hartford, he wants to spend time with us before the show and just talk everything comedy, talk, about the business and how to manage yourself and manage your shows. And so for him to take the time out to not just, anybody could just say, yeah, go ahead, perform a few minutes in front of my show, whatever. But then to also take the time to really mentor us he's a great guy.
He told us a story about how Jeff Foxworthy had kind of pulled him to the side and offered suggestions and mentored him, and now he's paying it forward. Is this something you see yourself doing in the future with other young up and coming comedians? Is the mentorship thing? I mean, you're kind of doing it now already, right?
I would hope so. Yeah. No, exactly. I mean, I've already volunteered to mentor the next class, and I will continue to do so. I think I look back to all the people that have mentored me. Like I said before, I wouldn't be at the level I'm at now. This is not me. This is not I'm not self-sufficient in the fact that like I came from nothing and I built this empire. Like I've had help every step of the way. Every person that's been involved in my life has given me a piece to help me kind of build something of my own. So the least I can do is try to pay that forward.
I think people are under the impression that in order to be a comedian, you're funny and you get on stage, you tell jokes and that's it. But I don't think people grasp everything that's involved. And this is a craft. This is not just. I mean, and especially if you're booked for a show, you can't just say I'm not feeling funny today and blow it off. There's a lot of work that goes into this.
It's a lot. I mean, a lot of times, I've seen it in my class. I've seen it in the next class that we're mentoring. You have these guys that, before the class, we're all joking around. These guys are funny. But that first time you just get up there and you realize, oh, wait, like I remember like I my first time performing for other people in the classroom, and even just in the classroom environment, I remember I'd spent days just writing material. And I got like no laughs. And I realized, wow, this is a lot harder than, because what you think is funny isn't necessarily always funny to others.
Right.
Just recently, we had ASAP was given a great opportunity in Virginia Beach. An amazing performer, Mike Birbiglia, took time before his show in Virginia Beach, and to talk to a bunch of ASAP alum, and to talk the business and to talk his process. And he said this great piece of advice. He said, I get up and I do. I think he said he's like 2 hours just of writing, nonstop writing. And he goes, if I write 100 pages, 90 of them will be garbage, and 5 of them or 10 of them will be funny to me, but only 5 of them will be funny to the audience. So it's just this idea of, it's a very hard process. It really is, takes a lot of work and to find, your voice and to what's funny to the audience. But yeah, it's not something anybody can just kind of get up and do. Well, I'm sure there's somebody. I can't. Statistically, there's got to be somebody who can just get up on stage and be funny.
I mean, but somebody may have some funny stories to tell, but once they've exhausted that, then what?
Right.
So Jason wants to know if you like Mitch Hedberg, but I'm gonna take the question a little bit further and ask you, who would you say your favorite comedians are or greatest influences?
Oh man, I have been such a fan of, just comedy in general. So everything from the '80s comics, Richard Pryor and back when Eddie Murphy did his thing, all the way up until someone like Mitch Hedberg. I think the closest, and this is just by pure coincidence, it's been Mike Birbiglia. His comedy isn't as mainstream. He's a big name in the comedy world. Maybe not as mainstream as a lot of people know, but his style of just very storytelling, and finding the funny in the story, and then he's not one of those, because some comics are very overactor or will do characters, and my style is very much more, it's just me talking about what I've been through and how ridiculous it is when you really stop and think about it. And so that's very much his same style of comedy. So I think he's probably been one of my biggest inspirations and kind of and his way of performing. But there's just too many. There's just so many great comedians out there, men, women, every different age and ethnicity. I love it all. I'm a huge fan of just comedy in general.
Mike Birbiglia has been in Orange is the New Black, right? He's got an acting gig.
Yeah. He has this great joke where he goes, you might recognize me. I'm the 74th lead on Orange is the New Black, which is just hysterical. But he definitely doesn't take himself that seriously about it. But yes, he's done a couple things here and there. He actually he wrote and directed and starred in 2 of his own movies, which are phenomenal if you ever get the chance to see it. One is Sleepwalk with Me, where he talks about how he suffers from like sleepwalking, but like the very to the max level kind of sleepwalking, where he once jumped out of a 2nd-story window.
Oh, shit.
And he that became a part of his set, and he ended up doing a play about it, and then actually made a movie about it. And then also he just did one that's more about improv and sketch comedy called Don't Think Twice, which is a great one if you guys can go out and see.
Zulu, you had a question or a statement?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, when the last time when's the last time you paid to watch somebody do stand-up comedy?
Oh, that's a good question.
Oh man, I'll be honest. I'm a homebody. I'm a very introvert. And one of the things my wife hates the most about me is I don't like going out. I don't like going to the movies. I don't like going to concerts. I don't like doing things. I will go to comedy shows, and I've paid for a few of them. For instance, the Mike Birbiglia show, again, just happened like 2 or 3 weeks ago, so it's the most recent in my mind. But I got a free ticket because I was an ASAP alum. But I bought a ticket for my wife because I wanted her to be there with me, and she's very supportive of what I do. So I kind of like to take her on the journey with me. But yeah, now that I'm more in the comedy world, I would absolutely take the time out to go see a show.
Well, now that you do it yourself. When you go, are you just kind of like, you just kind of sit down and you're just like, all right, I'm waiting for the funnies, or do they come out and you're like, oh, I see what he's doing there. Oh yeah, it's good what he's doing.
It's funny you should say that. I have I have Sirius XM in my car, so like they have comedy channels where
Raw
they just
Dog.
play. Yeah, Raw Dog, exactly. Yep, Raw Dog comedy.
Yeah.
And like Laugh USA, I think's the other one. I listen to a lot of it, and whether I go to a show live or if I'm listening it or I'm watching it on my iPad, whatever. I do try to be an audience member in air quotes as much as I can because I want to enjoy the show. But you do really, the training starts kicking in, and you're like, I see what he did there. I see how he looked off the joke, or I see how he exaggerated this one part, or he did a misdirect in this one part, or he did a callback to his earlier set, and he's using this cue, and little things like that. A lot of things like the way they hold their body, the way they might say something one way, but they're looking another way. It's you start to really see all the little intricate parts of the comedy routine when you what's the saying, how when you know how the donuts are made or how the sausage is made, right? Something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Once you know it, you really start to spot it.
So you kind of deconstruct other people's stuff now that you understand how it's all constructed.
Yeah, he's studying it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
and
good.
I mean, by no means am I some type of master comedian or anything like that, but I've become a student of comedy, and I think to excel at it, you really need to. Whether or not it's your style. I'm not a Dice Clay that's going to be F this and F that and be very over the top. But I can watch it and appreciate his style and his delivery, his timing, his pacing, and learn something from it.
Okay, nice. Now, Jason in the Facebook Live chat is asking a question that I was actually about to ask you too. You said that you were a homebody and an introvert, but yet you're going on stage as a comedian. Is that one thing you feel comfortable doing?
This is something that I share with CQ, as I too am an introvert.
Yeah, a lot of people misunderstand that like the first thing I'll say is that so for years the years that I was living in Pennsylvania in my house, I was a recluse. I was a literal recluse where it'd be weeks that I didn't leave my house. And God bless my wife for being the one that's going to get groceries and the things I need to survive. And going through PTSD and things like that and trying to get through that. I'm still that homebody that wants to stay home. But obviously, I know I have responsibilities as an adult, and I have to do these things. Being on stage, it's a lot of people misunderstand that, like, oh my God, you're at the mercy of the audience. And for anybody that's done it, really knows that's not the case. As a comedian, you are in control of the situation. You are the decider. You are going to say, you're going to sit there and you're going to listen to me. The spotlight's on me. It's not on you. And I'm in control. I'm going to tell you basically when to laugh, and it's like, for instance, ASAP has another great program that's an improv class. I said, as much as I love doing stand-up, I would be petrified to do improv because in that situation, you are very much at the mercy of the audience. And I like being able to spend weeks and weeks writing material, working material, knowing what I'm going to say word by word, beat by beat. But you put me in a situation where I'm going to have to improv in front of an audience, I'm going to shut down so fast.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, being an introvert, it's actually very therapeutic to be able to go on a stage and say, and make people laugh. It's as close to being an extrovert as I could possibly get.
Okay, that's cool.
That improv thing, that's an entirely different animal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and Kaz is asking a question I was just about to ask you. Well, he worded it a little differently, but I'll combine our questions. Have you been heckled, and how have you dealt with it?
I've been fortunate that the shows that I performed at that are comedy shows, there hasn't been hecklers. There was a situation where I was performing and the space wasn't necessarily the best. In comedy, it'd be nice to have a very wide audience, but that has a shallow depth, if you get what I'm saying, maybe 7 rows deep,
Right.
but more of a wide audience. This was a situation where I performed, and it was kind of like being a stewardess on an airplane, because there was 2 seats on either side of me, and then the rows just went on forever.
Holy crap.
And so it was very awkward. And then the speaker was directly behind me, so anybody that was 4 rows back and beyond could not hear what I was saying. And so there were a few, yells from the back, like, we can't hear you and stuff. And, you just got to perform. The worst I've ever been heckled, though, I will tell you this, was at my wife's baby shower. And I say that because I had a few of my comedy friends come to the baby shower, and we're like, you know what? There's an audience here. People are drinking. We're laughing. People kept asking me, hey, I know you're doing the comedy thing. Can you tell a few jokes? And I pulled the group together. It was about 4 of us. And I pulled the group together. I said, hey, you guys want to do like an impromptu comedy show? And I should have stuck with the reaction. Their faces were saying, like, that is the dumbest idea ever. But I convinced them, and we ended up putting on a very impromptu comedy show at my baby shower, which went well, except when I was up, a couple of friends of mine decided this would be a great opportunity to heckle the shit out of me. And yeah, so it was already a very awkward space. We didn't have microphones. I mean, we're in a party, like there were kids running around. So it was you're already off your game as a comedian, but then to be heckled by your own friends, you just gotta kind of roll with it.
God damn
have
it,
fun with
guys.
So in retrospect, that was probably not the best idea.
Yes, I would recommend any comedians out there not to perform at baby showers. That'd be my recommendation.
Noted. I mean, I'm not a comedian, but I'm gonna steer clear of the which I do anyways. Baby showers. I mean, I guess you had a good reason to be there, but not this guy. Baby showers, indeed. Michael, let's take one more opportunity before I move on to the next segment of the show to tell everybody where they can find you. I know I got it pinned to the top of the Facebook live chat here. You're on Facebook, facebook.com/comedycq,
That's correct.
Which is pretty cool name, Comedy CQ.
I try.
Yeah, I like that. Very creative. Courtesy of your friends.
That's right. Yeah, the CQ moniker has followed me since basic training.
Your friends are either doing really good stuff for you or heckling you at baby showers. There's really no in between, is there?
That's what I like to surround myself with. I want to be on edge at all times.
You never know what they're going to do to you. Like they all showed up in mass here in the Facebook live chat and immediately started talking shit as soon as your segment started.
That's right. Those are the people that I like to surround myself with.
Excellent. Yeah, keeps you on your toes. Michael, best of luck to you. You're always welcome back here anytime. If you'd like to call in and talk for a few minutes or a couple of hours, we're here.
Definitely. No, this was a blast. Thank you guys so much. And yeah, anytime I can spread awareness and for veterans issues and get to talk about myself, I'd love to have the opportunity.
Are you saying you're your favorite topic? I love it.
Yes.
I like that.
That's awesome. Honest.
I like that you're confident enough to feel like that you're more interesting than anything else you could possibly talk about.
Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing comedy.
Exactly.
Bye, Felicia.
Yes, fancy.
So remember, from all of us here at WTF Nation, to all of you out there, wherever you are, the light at the end of the tunnel may be you. Good night.